I lost my spouse and no one warned me about this. Don't go through it blind. Have you ever sat in a quiet room and realized just how loud silence can feel? Maybe it's the rustle of the newspaper that used to be his every morning routine, or the click of a light switch she always flipped before bed. It's strange how something so small can feel so heavy. If you're watching this, I want to say something right away. I'm truly sorry you're walking this road. Losing a spouse isn't just losing a partner. It's like losing a part of your story, the person who knew all your jokes, your habits, your routines. The one who made a house feel like home. No one prepares us for this part of life, do they? There are books, sure. And friends who mean well. But grief? Grief is personal. It's messy. And sometimes, it feels like it rewrites who you are. That's why I wanted to make this video, not as an expert, but as someone who's been through it. These are 6 things I truly wish I had known before my spouse passed away. And maybe, just maybe, they'll help you feel a little less alone in this new chapter. Let's start with something I learned the hard way. Time doesn't heal everything, it just teaches you how to carry it differently. People will say, time heals all wounds, and you'll nod, because what else can you do? But in the quiet moments, you'll realize that some wounds don't close. Instead, they become a part of you. I used to think I was doing something wrong because I wasn't moving on the way others thought I should. But here's what I wish I knew then: grief isn't a path with a finish line. It's a companion that walks beside you, sometimes close, sometimes far, but always there in some form. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you're stuck. It means you love deeply. It means your story together mattered. The second thing? Guilt sneaks in when you least expect it. Not just big guilt, like could I have done more, or did I miss a sign, but the little things too. Like the first time you laugh at something on TV and then feel awful about it. Or when you cook a meal and realize it's just for one. And for a moment, you wonder, is it wrong to keep going? Let me tell you now, it's not. It's not wrong to live. It's not wrong to feel joy. Your spouse wouldn't want you to build a shrine to sorrow. They loved you. They chose you. And they'd want you to keep being you, even if it takes time to remember who that is. I remember one afternoon, a few weeks after the funeral, I caught myself humming in the kitchen. It was a habit. I always hummed while cooking. But that day, I stopped mid-note and just stood there with tears in my eyes. It hit me, I didn't know if I was allowed to feel okay for a moment. And that kind of emotional tug-of-war? That's part of grieving too. No one tells you how tangled it all becomes: grief and joy, sorrow and memory, pain and gratitude. What helped me was something simple, though not easy: permission. Giving myself permission to feel whatever came. There's no schedule. No right way to grieve. Some mornings, I got up and made breakfast like everything was fine. Other mornings, I stayed in bed and stared at the ceiling. And both were valid. You're not failing at grief just because you have a good day, or a bad week. You're just human, doing your best to heal around a wound that will always leave a scar. Another thing I wish I'd known before my spouse died is how friendships change. Some people disappear. Not because they don't care, but because they don't know what to say. Others surprise you. They show up with a casserole, or a phone call, or just a quiet presence that says, "I'm here." But even then, it can feel isolating. Because no matter how kind they are, they didn't lose your person. And that kind of loneliness is hard to explain. So, if you're feeling like you don't quite fit anymore, like you're not sure where you belong, I get it. After all, your identity shifts. You're not part of a couple anymore, but you're still you. And figuring out who that version of you is, that takes time. I want to tell you something I wish someone had told me: you're allowed to change. You're allowed to grow in new directions. Just because your past was beautiful doesn't mean your future can't be, too. There's a moment, usually quiet and unexpected, when you realize the world keeps turning. People go back to work, neighbors wave hello, and the days blur one into the next. At first, that realization can sting. How can life keep going when yours feels paused? But slowly, you start to notice things. The way the sunlight hits your porch in the morning. The warmth of a cup of tea in your hands. A smile from a stranger. And bit by bit, you begin to find small moments of peace. Those small moments, they matter. They're not the same as having your loved one back. Nothing ever will be. But they remind you that you're still here. And while your heart may always carry the ache, it can also carry hope. You might laugh again, sing again, even fall in love with parts of life you never noticed before. Now, let's take a breath here. We've covered some deep things already. And if you're feeling emotional right now, that's perfectly okay. This conversation isn't easy, but it's real. And you're not alone in it. One of the most unexpected things I learned after losing my spouse was how quiet the house becomes, not just physically, but emotionally. There's an emptiness in the rhythm of the day. No one asking, "What's for dinner?" No one saying goodnight as you turn out the lights. And it's in those quiet spaces that the emotions rush in like waves. You might be folding laundry and suddenly feel overwhelmed. Or driving down the road and hear a song that takes you back. Those moments sneak up on you. And it's not weakness, it's memory. It's love, still showing up. The third thing I wish I had known is that grief changes shape over time. At first, it's sharp and all-consuming, like walking around with a heavy coat you can't take off. But slowly, it softens. The edges round out. It doesn't go away, but it becomes more manageable. I used to think that if I wasn't crying every day, maybe I wasn't loving them enough. That's just not true. Grief isn't proof of love, your life is. The way you carry on, the way you remember them, the way you honor what you shared, that's the legacy of love. It helps to have rituals. Little things that keep the connection alive in a healthy way. Maybe you light a candle at dinner. Or talk to their picture when something big happens. I still find myself reaching for my spouse's old sweater on chilly mornings, even though it's a bit worn at the cuffs. There's comfort in those familiar things. Don't let anyone rush you out of them. You don't have to clean out the closet by a certain date or get rid of their favorite chair. Healing isn't about erasing, it's about adjusting. And speaking of adjustment, let's talk about how hard it is to make decisions on your own again. That's something I didn't expect to be so difficult. After years of partnership, deciding together, planning together, you suddenly find yourself carrying it all. From simple things like what to eat, to the bigger questions like what do I want this next chapter of my life to look like? It can feel overwhelming. There were days I stood in the grocery store staring at 2 different brands of coffee, not because I didn't know which one I liked, but because I was so used to choosing together. And in those moments, you might feel frozen. Lost. Like you're not sure who you are without the we. But slowly, you learn to trust yourself again. You remember that you still know what you like. You still have opinions, dreams, preferences. They might feel unfamiliar at first, but they're still yours. One thing that helped me through that time was journaling. Nothing fancy, just a notebook where I could spill out the thoughts that had nowhere else to go. I wrote letters to my spouse, too, about my day, my fears, even my hopes. It felt strange at first, like I was pretending. But then I realized I wasn't pretending at all. I was continuing a bond, honoring a love that still lives inside me, even if the person is no longer here physically. There's another part of grief that no one really prepares you for, and that's how the future feels different. Plans you made together suddenly vanish. Vacations, anniversaries, little dreams you shared, they all come to a halt. And you're left with a big, empty space. It's easy to feel like your future disappeared with them. I know I did. But here's what I've come to understand, the future hasn't disappeared. It's changed, yes, but it's not gone. It's waiting to be reimagined. It's okay to feel scared about that. It's okay if you're not ready to start dreaming again. But one day, you might wake up and feel a tiny flicker of curiosity about what comes next. Follow that. Nurture it. Maybe it's a new hobby, a new friendship, a trip you never took. Maybe it's just sitting outside and watching the birds, realizing that life is still moving around you and that you're part of it. There's no need to reinvent yourself overnight. Healing happens in layers, not leaps. And it's perfectly normal to take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Some days will feel hopeful. Others may feel like you're back at day 1. But both are part of the process. There's no finish line to grief, just a continuing path. And every step you take is meaningful, even if it doesn't feel that way at the time. I want to say this clearly, because maybe no one has said it to you yet. You are doing better than you think. The fact that you're here, listening, trying to understand your grief, that shows strength. Not the kind of strength that pretends everything is fine, but the quiet kind that wakes up each morning and keeps going anyway. And if you're wondering when you'll feel like yourself again, the truth is, you may not. Not exactly. But that doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're growing. You're becoming someone new, a version of yourself shaped by love, by loss, and by everything in between. And that person is worth getting to know. There's a moment, after the whirlwind of the funeral, after the sympathy cards stop coming and the phone rings a little less, where you start to realize that the world expects you to be okay. Maybe not completely okay, but okay enough. Enough to function, to smile politely, to talk about the weather instead of your aching heart. And that brings me to something else I wish I'd known back then. Pretending to be okay doesn't actually help you heal. You don't have to perform strength for anyone. You don't need to wear a brave face every day. Some days, your strength will look like getting dressed and making coffee. Other days, it might just be sitting with your memories, letting the tears fall without judgment. That is strength too. Real strength isn't about pushing through, it's about allowing yourself to feel and still choosing to keep going. There were times I'd be out with friends, and someone would mention something lighthearted, maybe a new TV show or a silly family story, and I'd laugh along, but inside I felt hollow. Because underneath that smile was the constant awareness of absence. If you felt that too, that strange disconnection between what people see on the outside and what's happening inside, you're not alone. It's okay to not be okay all the time. And it's more than okay to say it out loud. One thing I found comforting, even when I didn't expect it, was helping someone else. Sometimes, when we're deep in our own sorrow, the last thing we think about is giving. But I'll tell you something, it doesn't have to be grand or complicated. I once brought soup to a neighbor going through surgery recovery. Simple. Small. But for a moment, it pulled me outside of my pain. It reminded me that I still had something to offer the world, even if I felt broken. And I think that's something many of us forget in grief. We still have value. Even when we feel lost. Even when we're unsure of our purpose without our partner. You are still needed. Still important. Your life still has meaning, even if it looks different now. There's a quiet kind of wisdom that grows in loss, and that wisdom? It becomes a light for others, whether it's your children, your friends, or someone you meet who's just starting their own grief journey. You might even find yourself becoming the person you once needed. I remember talking to someone who had just lost her husband. She was in that fog, that heavy, exhausting beginning. And I didn't offer advice or try to fix anything. I just listened. And in doing that, I realized how far I had come. I wasn't done grieving, none of us ever really are, but I had learned how to hold space for both sorrow and peace. That's a gift. That's something to be proud of. And now, here's something I want to say from my heart: love doesn't end. I know it sounds like a phrase you'd read in a greeting card, but it's true in the deepest way. The love you had with your spouse, it doesn't vanish when they're gone. It transforms. It becomes part of who you are. You might hear their voice when you're facing a tough decision. You might feel their presence during a walk at sunset. Or dream of them on a quiet night. That's not your imagination. That's love, echoing through the life you built together. I still talk to my spouse. Not in a loud, dramatic way. Just quietly, when I need to. When I'm missing them. When something beautiful happens and I wish they could see it. I believe that kind of connection still matters. You don't have to stop including them in your life just because they're not physically here. You can carry them with you, in your stories, your choices, your traditions. That's part of healing too, knowing they're not gone from you. Just gone from sight. And as we bring this conversation to a close, I want to remind you of something gentle but powerful. You are allowed to keep living. You're allowed to laugh without guilt. To find joy in a sunrise. To make new memories without erasing old ones. You're not betraying their memory by continuing your life, you're honoring it. Because love doesn't want you to shrink. It wants you to grow. To feel. To live. So, if you've been holding your breath, waiting for permission to move forward, consider this it. Take that trip you talked about. Plant that garden you always wanted. Learn to paint. Call up an old friend. Whatever it is, big or small, give yourself permission to begin again. You've made it through something unthinkable. And though the pain may still be there, so is your strength. So is your heart. So is your ability to love and be loved. If this video spoke to you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Whether it's a story, a memory, or just a me too, your voice matters. We heal in community, not in silence. And if you found comfort here, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. We talk about real things here, the kind of things that don't always have easy answers, but always deserve a little more kindness and honesty. Here's to you, and to the love that never really leaves us. You are not alone. And you are stronger than you think.